But the culture shifted a lot since then. How, in your view, has the culture changed since the day of our fathers?
Well, it's interesting because my mom and dad grew up in Europe during the war and after the war. They experienced real hardship, hunger. And so I think a lot of the kids that I grew up with in America, their parents hadn't really been through that. If you'd been through the Depression, maybe. But I think that, when you're really blessed, the temptation is to think, oh, this is normal, not to understand that we're blessed to be a blessing. Being blessed is not normal. It's a gift from God. And so I think that what has happened really with our generation is that we grew up with such prosperity, we forgot that there was this thing called evil. My mother and father, because my mother grew up in Nazi Germany, which then became East Germany, where her family was under Stalin and the Soviet bloc. My father growing up in Greece, which the communists tried to take over. They experienced evil. They saw hunger. They saw terrible things. And that changes your perspective. And I think that they gave that to me and my brother John, again, without trying, just telling the stories of what it was like to grow up where literally you are hungry. There are many times when you are literally hungry. It made me appreciate food. It made me appreciate money. It made me appreciate having a job, working hard, sacrificing. All of that stuff came to me through my parents. And I really think that the reason we are in the tremendously dire circumstances in which we find ourselves today in the United States of America is because we have drifted away from that. People who experienced the Depression, who experienced the war, if you're a guy, it'll make a man out of you, And I think that since the 60s, we have been increasingly feminized and soft, and we don't understand that you need to fight for truth. You need to understand that there is really evil in the world. And I always say this, that because my mother and father experienced communism and all this ugly stuff, they knew that there was evil and that the default mode is not, hey, everything is great. The default mode, things can get very, very, very bad. I wrote a book called Fish Out of Water, which is really a love letter to my father. It's the story of my growing up. And I realized that my parents innately understood how bad things could get because they'd lived through that. And I think a lot of people in America today have forgotten. We're getting a taste the last 3 years of things can go in a very, very bad direction. We're beginning to see it. Clearly, we're seeing it. And I believe that things getting really, really, really bad is God's mercy to us now to wake up those who can be awakened. It's why I wrote my book Letter to the American Church, and why I'm going around the country saying to people, okay, you get it. Now you need to wake up. You've been sleeping. You need to wake up. You need to go to war against evil in every way. You need to stop pretending like that's not my job. If you do nothing, evil will take over, just as it did in Nazi Germany. And that's the parallel in the book Letter to the American Church, is that the German church did not understand how bad things could be. They were spoiled, just as we in the American church have become spoiled. And I believe it's God's mercy waking us up right now.
What you just described is an analogy with leprosy, right? If you can't feel pain, you'll touch that hot pan and it will burn you, permanently damaging you. The fact that we can feel pain is a gift from God that allows us to realize, hey, I don't want to stick my hand in the fire. And yet, so many in America are not feeling the pain, and therefore they're willing to stick their hand in the fire. And people from Venezuela or China are coming over and saying, what are you Americans doing? You have liberty and you're throwing it away. North Korea, meet an immigrant from any communist nation, and they're warning us right now, don't do that.